Hello and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to look at the captaincy model numbers for Game Week 11 and we'll have a quick look at the Game Week 10 results now. So as you can see that on screen, probably the worst week of the season for the captaincy model. I don't think we've had only 3 attacking returns in a given week before, but that is what we have here. Obviously, the first player still returned in Mo Salah, so I guess if you own Salah and you captain the top option, the rest don't really matter. But yeah, a lot of other premiums didn't do well. So obviously Haaland, Palmer, Saka all blanked, albeit Palmer did get 1 bonus point. Foden obviously blanked as well, down in number 8. Son, his expected minutes were obviously slightly too high, but I'm glad I didn't have him up kind of in the 80 range. He obviously came off before 60 minutes but managed an assist, so got 4 points. Now again, I say this kind of every week because there seems to be a situation every week where it happens, but Eze at number 7, obviously if I'd recorded this video on Thursday or Friday last week, then Eze wouldn't have been in here because he got injured on Wednesday night. But I do have to record this video early in the week, so Eze was of course in there and he didn't play. He got no points because he got injured on Wednesday. But yeah, only 3 returns. Haaland had a ridiculous amount of chances. Again, the last 2 weeks he's had crazy amounts of chances, so I don't think we'll see weeks like this very often where Haaland gets all the chances and doesn't manage to finish any of them. But Palmer was never really that close to a return. The same could be said about Saka as well, really. He didn't have a great game. None of the Arsenal players did, really. Bruno Fernandes obviously got his penalty. That's why he's high up on this list quite often, because of the fact he takes penalties. Similar to all of the top 5, really, this week. Or last week, should I say. And Eze as well, and Son. So, Diaz minutes, again, I think if I'd have recorded this later in the week, I'd have had Diaz's minutes lower, given that it looked like he wasn't going to start anyway. So, like I say, that is the problem with recording this early in the week. But let's have a look at the Game Week 11 numbers now, because there are some interesting players in the mix. Okay, so on to this week's numbers now, and Salah is top again with almost the exact same expected points as last week. I think it was 6.33 last week. 6.34 this week, sorry. And the only real player that is contesting him is Son. So Son I've got at 70 minutes, the same as last week. So he came off around the 57th minute, I think it was, at the weekend. Now obviously he's just come back from an injury. I think it was a hamstring injury, so he will be eased. He won't play 90 minutes every week, as we know. Ipswich at home has come a little bit too soon to be playing 80 minutes or something like that. I do think that 70 is probably about right. Obviously, game state can change things. If they're 4-0 up at half-time, there's every chance he comes off again around the 57th minute or something like that. Whereas if they are drawing or losing, then he's more likely to stay on probably. But if you think, I'm not sure this is a correct way to think, but if you do think that he gets 80 or somewhere near 90 minutes, then he probably is up there with Salah in expected points wise anyway. But based on these expected minutes, Salah is quite far ahead. Fernandes is in 3rd, although it is pretty much equal with Haaland in 4th. Now, that 3rd decimal point is the reason that Fernandes is 3rd. He is a tiny, tiny fraction higher than Haaland. Obviously, the fixture's fantastic. Leicester at home. Fernandes will probably feature quite heavily in these videos for the next 3 weeks, because I think he's got potentially Southampton next week and then Everton the week after or something like that. Has 3 very good fixtures in the next 3, so expect Fernandes to be in these videos for the next few weeks. Haaland, this is probably the lowest Haaland's been, to be honest, and the only real reason he's this low is because Son has a fantastic fixture and Fernandes has a fantastic fixture. So I don't think we'll see Haaland this low very often. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's been missing chances. He's still been getting chances, so that's not the problem. He's had 6 big chances over the last 2 game weeks, I believe, and he's only converted 1 of them. So I don't think we'll see this level of underperformance from Haaland for very long. Again, he's had over 3 XG as well during that time. Typically, he's an overperformer of XG, so yeah, expect Haaland to be back amongst the returns very, very soon. Although Brighton away, it's not obviously the best fixture, but it's not a bad one either, especially as Lewis Dunk is probably out. And we saw against Liverpool how Brighton in attack can just devastate teams. So, yeah, don't be surprised if Haaland's back on the score sheet though. Then we've got 2 Spurs boys again in Solanke and Porro. Obviously, Solanke got 2 goals and an assist against Aston Villa at the weekend. Before that, he had 2 blanks, and I don't think he'd had any shots either. So Solanke's data has been really kind of up and down. Before those 2 weeks, he was in amongst the box, having lots of shots. Then he went 2 weeks without having any shots, I think. So, and then obviously this week he had 2 goals and 1 assist for winning a free kick. But overall, in terms of forwards, he's 3rd for XG, I believe, or XGI, one of the 2, in the whole season, behind only Haaland and Jackson. So Solanke was always going to be fine. If you owned him, he was always a hold until after this Ipswich at home game. So yes, he is a very good differential captain option this week. Pedro Porro, I've mentioned before how I don't particularly like it when defenders are in this list. I mean, we've had Gvardiol before, the week before last, who actually did get 9 points when he kept a clean sheet and got 3 bonus. We've had Trent in this quite often before. Porro isn't playing the same as he was at the start of the season. At the start of the season, he was getting into this kind of number 10 position quite often, and we haven't seen that of late. So I am a bit dubious about how high he is on here, but obviously it's mainly the fixture is the reason. He was on a couple of set pieces with Maddison not on the pitch at the weekend, but Son was also taking some and Kulusevski was as well, so he's not on all set pieces. Mbomo, 7th with Bournemouth at home. That's another very good fixture. We saw, obviously Man City are a very different team to Brentford, different quality, but we saw Man City put up a lot of XG against Bournemouth. Their defence has been okay. It's not been one of the worst in the league, but it's also not been great. So Mbomo is a great option this week. Palmer, I've got him at 85 minutes. He's a really tough 1 minute. Him and Jackson are both tough to put X minutes for, because we've seen quite often if they're winning, like against West Ham a few weeks ago, they were like 4-0 up early on and they both came off very, very early. But quite often they will also both stay until the end of the game, so it's really tough to predict. I think more often than not they will stay and play most of the game, so I've got him at 85. Haven't got him as high as the likes of Haaland, Fernandes, Salah and Mbomo, just because I think he's less likely to play 90 minutes than those guys are, but it is also very, very likely that he does in most games. Sounds weird to say both of those things, but yeah, he is level with Mbomo. Bowen comes into the top 10 this week because of that nice fixture. He is great for minutes. I've got him on 88. It's a very, very nice fixture. Everton have slightly improved defensively over the last few weeks. Could have been because of the fixtures, because they have had nicer fixtures over the last few weeks, like against Southampton last week. And can't remember who the week before, but they did have a very nice fixture the week before as well. But yeah, any home game against Everton is still going to be a good fixture. And Bowen is most likely on penalties now, or more likely than he was before, given that he took that one against Man United. I think Lucas Paqueta was off the pitch when that penalty happened, so still yet to understand who is the first choice, because Paqueta has taken penalties before, but Paqueta hasn't been on the pitch for 90 minutes every week like he was last season, so Bowen is still the more likely penalty taker. And then we have Phil Foden in 10th now. I've upped his minutes a little bit. I think they were 70 last week. I've upped them to 75 this week. Problem is, Kevin De Bruyne was back in the squad for Man City at the weekend, so that could see Foden's expected minutes going forward take a slight hit, given that De Bruyne will probably play a lot of games when he's back. I do imagine he'll be eased in though, so I think this Brighton game will probably come a little bit too soon for De Bruyne, and they'll probably use the international break to get him back to full fitness. But wouldn't surprise me if we did see KDB get some minutes this week. So I think Foden at 75 is fine. There is obviously a big chance that he doesn't start the game, so he can never be up in the 80s for me, personally, unless there is so many injuries that he is basically forced to play, which probably kind of was the case last week. But then it was also the case a week or two ago when he was still benched. So very, very difficult to have him any higher than 75 minutes. But yeah, these are the numbers for this week. Salah is some distance ahead of the others, but if you do think Son gets some great minutes out of nowhere, then he is also a very, very good option. But that's all for this one. If you like the video, do hit like, do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.